greatest stories ever in football.
Yeah.
Just, you know, the road that he took to come into the league, you know, between, you know, being starter in Northern Iowa, you know, and going into having a invite to camp, you know, with a couple really good quarterbacks with the Packers and
Hmm.
Brett Favre and Mark Brunell. You know, after that, you know, he went into obviously, like I said, the story's been told. You know, went from the Hy-Vee stalker and it ended up back at Northern Iowa as a graduate assistant. You know, coaching for the team, trying to get a shot in the NFL. You know, finally ended up with the Iowa Barnstormers out of the Arena League, and that's definitely where he got his name. As soon as he was able to get on the field, uh, that's that's where it got in 1995. Uh, then he was signed at St. Louis, and
Hmm.
that was the thing because back when, you know, they allocated players to NFL Europe and that thing, you know, the Amsterdam Admirals, you know, putting them on a full size field. I mean, that's what really got him into it. You know, he had Jake Delhomme as a backup. You know, that was a quarterback for the Panthers that ended up, you know, going to the Super Bowl right in between what, you know, the Super Bowl win and then ultimately the Super Bowl loss for Kurt Warner through when he ran into another draft or NFL miss and Tom Brady.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is that when you look at Kurt Warner, man, my God, I mean, the fact that he bounced around, he worked at a grocery store, and like you said, he played in Europe for a couple of years, for a little bit, and like I said, it's not, and he wasn't like he lit the world on fire out there. You know, it wasn't like he was can't miss prospect, in a sense, kind of like how Doug Flutie was. Remember when he went to the Canadian League and really tore it up, and that's how he kind of got another chance to play in the league. Kurt, he got lucky, man. I mean, no doubt about that, because like I said, in '99, he was one of the team's five unprotected players. So he got unselected by the Cleveland Browns, right? I mean, that was who originally they were going to go with, but decided that was not going to work, because that's the thing, is that whenever Warner was in the Arena League, as you mentioned, they had a guy by the name of John Huffnagel who was on their coaching staff. And Kurt said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be over there, because that was a rival coach. So he could have been on the Browns. As crazy as that is to see. Um, and like you said, just the fact that he was able to finally, get it and make things work in St. Louis was just tremendous. And I mean, man, and I think it helps that the team he had around him really helped mold him into the quarterback he was. I mean, just a couple of names here on the offense. You had guys like Marshall Falk, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Azir Zahir Zakeem, Ricky Prohl. All those guys are tremendous players, right? And with those gentlemen I just mentioned, Kirk Cousins lit it up. 4,000 plus yards, 41 touchdowns, and a completion rate of 65.1. And that, as we know, was the greatest show on turf, because they scored more than 500 points in 3 straight seasons. That's how good he was, man. But go ahead and continue. What else did you like about Kirk Cousins? I'm just gonna keep doing this, man. I'm excited for this upcoming season. That's what it is. We've been talking all off season about Kirk Cousins, and now we're going back and talking about Kurt Warner. So talk to me about Kurt Warner. I'll get it right this time, and just continue, man, about his story.
Well, this is a story where the work ethic, the tenacity that he had, you know, completely overshadowed everything. You know, he
Mm-hmm.
never quit through any of that. Like, you know, so many of these players, and he's become, you know, an inspiration for him. And I run into him all the time doing what I do, you know, in the draft world, and you know, going into the NFL kind of world. And there are so many players that slip through the cracks,
Mm-hmm.
Between Kurt Warner, Brock Purdy, all these quarterbacks that have actually started to do something. The only way that they got in was because of an injury.
Yeah,
It wasn't,
takes a little bit of luck.
yeah, a whole lot of luck. It wasn't necessarily that they beat anybody out or did anything like that. Well, Brock Purdy now has with Trey Lance and such. He's taken over, but that was the same thing with Warner. As soon as he got on the field, they couldn't take him off the field. And you mentioned those great players. I mean, Kurt Warner is obviously, he's got a couple of sons that, like EJ Warner, who's at Rice now. His other son, Cade, that's a wide receiver with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now. You know, the athletics are there. Well, with his kids, maybe per se,
Mm-hmm.
because all Kurt Warner had to really do was have the mind and have that howitzer for a right arm, and be able to understand defensive concepts going on, understand where your players are, and then just go out there, have fun, and air it out.
Yeah.
And that's what Kurt Warner stepped into was a dream scenario, and this is back when defense was ruling. The NFL offense was all fine and dandy, but defense was what won championships, and he put his own stamp on things. He was what, like 28 years old when he got it finally.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, which is super late for football.
Yeah, super late, and he really didn't play that long. Um, but what he did, the impact that he had on the league, is what has him wearing that gold jacket now.
Yeah,
Just coming in and having that unstoppable force and being able to change what defenses do. I mean, that that is what tells you a great player and the leader of a team that he became. And it went further. He spent a year with the Giants. That didn't go
I was
well
about
at
to say,
all.
you just kind of brushed that one over.
Yeah, and then ended up with the Arizona Cardinals, splitting time with Matt Leinart and things like that. But he finally got them to a Super Bowl, and the only way that they lost was that last second catch by Santonio Holmes. That
Yeah,
was just,
I mean, that's going to be replayed forever. That's how good it was. It wasn't just a standard catch. We all, if you've seen it, it was that nice catch right in the deep pocket of the end zone. That you've seen thousands of times. So I mean, just like we said, unfortunately for Kurt, I mean that he couldn't get that, but yeah, he kind of had, like you said, that career renaissance because, like you said, after 2001, his play dipped off a little bit, mostly due to injuries. Right, he only played in 7 games in 02, and only played in 2 games in 03 to kind of end his career with the Rams, kind of on a whimper. Because, like you said, he was an absolute warrior. And did he stay on the field when he was hurt? And he probably shouldn't have. Hundreds of times. I mean, he even said that. I think he said he played with a broke hand for a couple of games, and he didn't want to leave. And unfortunately, his time with St. Louis ended. He went to New York for a year. Just kind of, he's all right, but it wasn't the play we were used to. But then, like you said, once he got to Arizona, he put up some really solid numbers. Of course, we know 08 was a kind of another chapter for him in a sense of a team who went. People forget they went 9-7 that year. It wasn't like they were a powerhouse. Were the Cardinals, and they made it all the way to the Super Bowl, and they almost won it. They were just out of reach, but I mean, like I said, he was just tremendous, and I mean, we know how good he was, right? I mean, he set a lot of records, a lot of big moments for him. I mean, like I said, he was the first quarterback to throw over 400 yards in a Super Bowl. That was against the Tennessee Titans. I mean, like I said, he had the most touchdown passes in a postseason. He had 11, right? So, I mean, and this before some guys took it over, but he was tremendous. And man, talk about a hot start, right? In 2000, especially, he threw in 6 games. He threw for 2,260 yards through 6 games. That is unheard of. That is unheard of, man. And it's hard to see that nowadays. But no, I think Kurt Warner is obviously an absolute tremendous player, Hall of Famer, as you said. And I don't know how, you don't know how it happened, but now you can look back and say, hey, and also with the draft kind of in the rearview mirror now, obviously we covered the draft here on the show. We talked about a lot about prospects. Sometimes it's the ones who kind of slip by that you don't think of. It's sometimes that guy who's on the bench, who doesn't get a whole lot of playing time, who through a lot of luck, like we said with Kurt Warner and then a lot of other guys, they become greats in the NFL, and in Kurt's case, they become Hall of Famers. So it's been cool to look back at that, man, and check out his story and just kind of revisit it as it was told. And I actually think they made a movie about him not too long ago. And I mean, rightfully so, rightfully so, because like I said, it was tremendous. But guys, we appreciate you coming in the show here today, checking us out, and seeing what we had to say about Kurt Warner. Of course, for my guy, William Yanish III, I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Guys, we'll talk to you next time on another live episode.